Hello and welcome to American Friction, the US politics podcast that has a working teleprompter.
Yeah, barely.
And it is telling me to say, hi, I'm Jacob Jarvis.
I'm Chris Jones.
And we are joined, of course, by the one, the only, the legendary,
Well, yeah,
some
quite.
might say, Nikki McCann Ramirez. Hi, Nikki. Do you think I've pronounced your name better today?
It just sounded like you were clearing your throat, to be honest.
I've been doing Duolingo. Anyway, well, hello,
You
Nikki.
do be gagging on it, sorry.
Oh, no.
Well, right, the tone started low, but on this show we are going to discuss Trump's very, very weird performance on the world stage, more political violence, unfortunately, and RFK Jr.'s paracetamol and autism conspiracy. Plus, we'll wrap up other stories you might have missed. Damn, there's a lot in this show.
There is, yeah.
And we'll do a silly question from our silly boy, Chris. Chris, get us going then.
Well, gag on this. This is American Friction.
Right, I've got something to say. We need your support to keep on going. It's that simple. We love making the show, but it costs money.
Oh, doesn't it?
Money, 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 money. So that's why we need backing on Patreon to keep going. I don't know why I'm saying this like I'm doing I feel like I'm in V for Vendetta or something, a really forceful video here. Anyway, but for as little as £3 a month, you'll get the show ad-free, and other tiers will get you access to bonus content and merchandise like hoodies. They're very cool. We wore them recently.
They're pretty
in an
good, yeah.
episode. They're
Yeah.
very, very good.
Really good.
And if you sign up for our £5 a month tier or above, we've got a Patreon chat community where you can ask questions to us, like, Chris, why are you wearing a hat inside? And each other, so that we can talk through the madness going on in US politics together. So, what are you waiting for? Follow the link in the show notes or go to patreon.com/American Friction to sign up. I don't know which way it is. Patreon.com/American Friction to sign up. Nikki, Trump at the UN. Was this an all-timer Trump rant? It really seemed like it made no sense at all.
I mean, my goodness. Sometimes I think about how the situation here in the United States is really embarrassing, but most of the time it's like pretty contained to the United States. So like, you know, it's our problem. It's our weird uncle. Sometimes, you know, the neighbors find out he does something, but like in front of the entire global community.
Yeah, this was like you had to take your weird uncle to like a party and he acted up.
And it was just, I think the thing that fascinated me the most was seeing him do all that in front of an audience that isn't made up primarily of like heavily curated sycophants. Because we've talked about it before, he's very intentional about, well, just the MAGA movement in general, about curating who in the audience is there, how they respond to him. Every time he goes out to the public event, like a sporting arena or something, there's always the debate of, oh, were they cheers? Were there boos? Those were definitely boos. But at events at the White House, public speaking, his rallies, he's usually in front of very receptive crowds. And it was just interesting to watch him give this speech, which in a lot of ways mirrors a lot of the kind of dribble he's constantly spewing when he's in front of a microphone, in front of an audience that was just kind of treating him like an insane person.
Yeah, what were some of the key points? Not to make you have to repeat too much Trump nonsense, but what were the highlights, really?
I mean, highlights for me, lowlights, you know, all of your countries are going to hell. Him claiming that he'd ended 7 wars. The number of wars he claims to have ended keeps increasing. And then, you know, him saying he like negotiated a peace deal between India and Pakistan. No, he didn't. Him saying that like Kosovo and Serbia were at war. They're not at war. It's just, he's inventing a reality for himself in front of a room of people who actually do know what's going on in the international community because that's their entire fucking job.
Yeah, I do worry as well that he speaks so clumsily that he might just cause more diplomatic crises than he claims to save as well. Because when he keeps saying that these countries are at war that aren't, I do wonder if they think, well, are they talking shit behind my back to Donald? What's going on there? Which, you know, is quite problematic.
Yeah.
But it's just the blatant lies. Like,
Yeah.
for example, Cambodia and Thailand, for example, claims to have ended the conflict there. But there are loads and loads of reports of skirmishes and continued violence going on there. He says he's completely stopped it, that there's no more fighting. It's not true. He's just making things up, basically. I think that's probably the most dangerous thing for me.
Yeah, it is just all complete bullshit. I think it was interesting to see as well this time how last time he spoke to the UN, it seemed like there was some sort of people sniggering a little bit, people thinking this is ridiculous. And this time it was just silent as they watched this guy do this bizarre meltdown.
It's a humiliation. The United States used to command... they basically built the United Nations. It was, a project of Eleanor Roosevelt. It was one of the great post-World War II achievements. The speeches at the General Assembly typically have a time limit. And it really is the ramblings of a senile old man who's just putting on display for the entire international community how just unstable the entire American project is right now. And that, bad all around.
But does he believe that he is the one humiliating them? That's what I find interesting about. Like, why do you think, is that why you think he's doing it? Because I think it looks humiliating for him and the US, but I get the sense that he is turning up and saying, I don't take this seriously, I don't take any of you seriously, and he's using it to he believes they're the ones who come out looking stupid.
Yeah, no, I think that's sort of the MO of Republican politics in general right now. It doesn't matter what I actually say or do, you're being owned. You've been owned, I have owned you.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this in an episode a few months ago, but one of the things that concerns me the most is how the US is very public withdrawal from the United Nations, from the international community, from things like the Paris Climate Accords. Yeah. It is leaving up that opening for the theoretical enemies of the United States, either economic, military, or just cultural, if you're a Republican, to step into that void. Over the course of this week, the General Assembly, UN Week, and also Climate Week at the UN, we saw China announce a ton of new investments, a ton of new projects. They're really upping the ante of sort of filling that void being left by the United States. And so I don't think other countries are really feeling like they're being too cowed into submission here. They're trying to see where the new polarities are, what powers are going to really step into that space that the United States is leaving behind.
I'm glad you brought up the Paris Accord there, because one of the things that he mentioned that really stood out for me that was quite stark is that he was saying that the carbon footprint was something like the biggest sham in history, the biggest hoax. And it's just complete nonsense. But then, as you've rightly said, there are
because
people...
COVID's the biggest sham in history.
Nice. But also, just like, as you mentioned, people sat there taking this seriously. It worries me whose minds that he is impacting and who he's managing to almost sway to think his way, because that will happen. He is one of the most powerful people in the world, and people will take what he says very seriously, especially those who have voted for him and don't want to be proven wrong by voting for him. Lots of people were very, selfish with their vote, and they won't think anything different because they're right. And if Donald Trump is spewing this kind of nonsense, what damage does that do? Not just in America, but right across the world. And I think I worry about what kind of impacts the kind of statements he had to say at the UN over climate is really going to have in the international community.
Yeah, I think that societal impact is really interesting, of the sunk cost fallacy that voters seem to feel, that they go, well, because there's so much social collateral based upon whichever side of the argument you choose to put yourself on, that then it's really difficult to ever admit you were wrong. It's really hard to say that, because you will have, we know across America, people have ostracized family members because of the way they vote.
Yeah.
Trump voters are disliked by their family members who aren't Trump voters, and vice versa. And so it's really hard for people on either sort of edge on politics or either side to concede to the other.
Exactly.
Because they've already given themselves so much sort of space to be shamed or to be shunned or to be criticized. At this point, it's like, what would be the point in telling a Trump supporter, well, you're really stupid for believing in climate change? Because they've already been told they're really stupid for believing in all sorts of stuff. So it just keeps them doubling down.
And the thing is, even if they didn't believe this before, because he said it now and because they've put all of their bets on black, I guess, that they have to go along with this now because, as you said, they don't want to be wrong. There's too much at stake for them to be wrong.
Yeah, well, it's the same as the politicians surrounding him, the sort of nationalisation of the politics, and that all these representatives have gone, well, I don't have a career without Trump. So fuck it, I'm going to stay chained to him. The weirdest bit, I mean, it was all pretty fucking weird, but weirdest bit for me, Chris, these conspiracy theories around an escalator and a teleprompter.
Hell yeah.
What is going on? I've seen
They tried to
Escalatorgate.
kill him.
By stopping an escalator. What?
And making the teleprompter not work.
Yeah.
That was a threat on his life.
That could have really killed him,
Yeah. This was very strange. For two things to happen. One has been explained. Two, I haven't seen an explanation for yet. It might have been, I just haven't found it. I actually thought it was quite funny when he first came on and said that the person responsible for the teleprompter was in big trouble. I actually thought that was quite funny.
Ours is a little bit wonky today, so...
What, the teleprompter?
Yeah, so whoever said that
I've done my fucking best, all right?
Yeah, oh, big trouble.
I don't know. Sounds like a murder conspiracy.
Chris tried to murder me
I've been
today,
trying to get
guys.
rid of Jarv for quite some time. The escalator stopped working as soon as him and Melania Trump stepped on it, which was... it was odd. These things, they don't normally happen. I don't know how many times you've stood on an escalator and it's just stopped. I'd say maybe once or twice in my life.
Yeah.
It's not that dangerous.
I've not been that shook by it. If it were to happen.
Maybe like slightly rocked, and then you
because
come back to balance.
on the danger for him. What are they trying to say is so dangerous about that? Are they saying that it's that he became a stationary target?
That's one of the things.
That makes some sense
Which
to me.
is I'm sorry. How fast do you think he's going on an escalator?
Yeah, surely he can walk.
There's that, but also the escalator was within the UN.
Yeah.
No one's getting a rifle in there without, I'll just say it.
Touch wood.
One's getting a rifle in there.
Let's touch wood somewhere if I could.
There's no wood anywhere.
For me, it's the notion that the theoretical gunman is just like, no, he's moving on the escalator. I can't keep up.
I'm fucked.
I saw loads of stuff like that online.
My favorite was Laura Loomer being like, have you ever seen the live leak videos from China of people getting just like chewed up by an escalator? If not, you should see.
Nikki. Oh my God.
I haven't.
Clearly
that
have.
doesn't sound real to me.
Oh no, they're unfortunately there's like compilation videos of that stuff on the internet.
Well, swiftly moving on.
Don't search for them, guys.
So someone else who kind of leaned into this being an act of saboteurs was Caroline Levitt, who's the press secretary. She said, if someone at the UN intentionally stopped the escalator as the president and first lady were stepping on, they need to be fired and investigated immediately. I think that would be the other way around, actually. I think you'd be investigated and then fired.
No.
But that's just semantics. What actually happened, though, was explained by the UN, and it's very simple. They released a statement that said, a subsequent investigation, including a readout of the machine's central processing unit, indicated that the escalator had stopped after a built-in safety mechanism on the comb step was triggered at the top of the escalator. Basically what happened was a videographer was going backwards up the escalator, triggered a stop mechanism because he was not being careful enough, and the escalator stopped and they had to restart it after everyone had got off.
No. It was an assassination plot.
Yeah.
Clearly.
The thing I find most bizarre about it is they're constantly trying to say Trump, toughest guy on earth. And coming out on Monday, our episode is with Danielle Kurtz-Lehman from NPR, and we're going to talk about the politics of dudes, is what I discussed with her, and basically how sort of all authenticity in America is linked to manliness, it seemed, at the moment. So look out for that. But one interesting thing we got into with that was how Trump clearly isn't this major tough guy, but they try and portray him as it. But this is so interesting that it's... So the two things that might be concerning are one, that so when the escalator stopped, he's going to be hard as nails, Trump, from everything the MAGA say about him. surely he could run faster than the escalator was moving anyway. So the motion situation, that shouldn't be a problem. Secondarily, if the worry was that it's stopping suddenly might make him fall, if the fucker's falling that easily, then there's maybe a problem and he shouldn't be president right now, you know?
A fall, like a stationary fall on an escalator, poses an existential risk to the president of the United States, maybe that person is, I don't know, a little too old to be president.
The amount of times that you would see news outlets doing, oh my God, look, Joe Biden just tripped on some steps, or oh my God, Kamala Harris tripped on some steps, or whatever. Any chance they get, they'll promote it. But apparently if that happened to Trump and he died from it, that would be a really complicated plot. That wouldn't be the fact that he's frail. And that just makes no sense. They're in Bizarro World. Someone else in Bizarro World with it, Nikki. I mean, Fox News. It feels weirder than ever. Jesse Waters has been really strange on this. Like, what the fuck is happening with them? Because I've never exactly respected Fox News, let's say. There was some veneer of respectability at points, and they fully feel now like they've gone just ludicrous mode.
Jarv, I don't know what channel you've been watching, but like
for a lot, I know, but like I'm being very generous, but you know what I mean. Like I think this does feel like the most like they're clutching at straws here because they must surely know it's stupid. And Jesse Waters feels more bizarre than say Tucker even was at points.
Jesse Waters lacks the veneer and the capability to perform intellectualism that Tucker Carlson was able to.
Yeah.
So his default is to just go to straight for apocalyptic outlandishness. Like Jesse Waters really can only exist and be relevant when it comes to shock value. He's not a deep thinker. There's like 3 separate things colliding in the Republican brain right now, which is the continued fallout of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which I think made a lot of these commentators feel incredibly vulnerable. Like it could have been any one of them. There is the shooting at the ICE facility that happened on Wednesday in Dallas, where we'll talk about it a little more, but once again, it just adds fuel to this idea in Republicans' heads that they are being targeted by left-wing violence. And then, of course, you have this entire cult of personality built around the presidency and an impulse that I don't actually think the problem with the escalator was that, you know, there was a serious attempt on President Trump's life via escalator. It's that it was an embarrassing gaffe. No, that's the thing. In this sort of environment where you have an administration that is trying to cultivate strongman authoritarianism and excesses of their constitutional powers, all while building up this cult of personality around dear leader, which has existed for a while now, but is really like crystallized. Anything that embarrasses that figurehead can be seen as like, even if it's not an existential threat, you have to react to it like it's an existential threat. And so that's why I think you're seeing this really brain-broken hysteria from commentators like the people at Fox News, like Benny Johnson, where they're just so deviated from what the reality is and what's actually useful that it just comes off as like gray matter exiting through their nostrils.
One of the big stories of the week has been RFK Jr. and Donald Trump suggesting Tylenol, known as paracetamol in the UK, being taken by pregnant women is linked to autism in children. It goes without saying, I suppose at this point, we want to say it first of all, that this link is completely unproven. So we wanted to discuss this concerning development, and to do that, we wanted to get someone who really knows what they're talking about. So earlier, Nikki and I sat down with Eric Garcia, Washington bureau chief at The Independent and author of We're Not Broken, Changing the Autism Conversation. And he's become our resident fuck that guy correspondent after he helped us slag off RFK Jr., Gavin Newsom, now RFK Jr. again. But yeah, we spoke to him to find out some answers. Eric, thank you so much for joining us on American Friction.
Thanks for having me.
So this announcement regarding Tylenol and autism, paracetamol for our British listeners.
Yeah.
Acetaminophen for the gringos.
Acetaminophen, yes.
I honestly, for so long, just had no idea what they were talking about with Tylenol, but now I'm caught up. What were the key points in this announcement, and just how shocking looking on to this was it?
The Wall Street Journal had reported like a few weeks ago that they were going to be making this announcement. And so that in and of itself wasn't surprising. What was surprising was the degree to which they said all this. You had the president of the United States saying, don't take it, saying that if you can't tough it out, then maybe you should take it. And then of course, Trump goes into a long tirade about vaccines and autism. And then you've got Robert F. Kennedy Jr. doing the same thing. You've got Marty Makary, the FDA, Food Drug Administration head, talking about how people with severe autism are hard to watch. It was really the degree to which they said it and the force of which they said it was really the shocking thing. It wasn't like, because again, the studies that have been done about acetaminophen /paracetamol /Tylenol is, they're very preliminary.
Yeah.
They're very small samples, and there's not a definitive link. And then the one study that really was a large scale study, the one in Sweden that was 2.5 million children, and it was a sibling study. That one showed no correlation whatsoever. So it was surprising how confident they were.
With that confidence, did they try and provide any of that research as evidence even so much? Or were they just straight up like, Tylenol is linked to autism, there you go? And when it comes to the link even, how much did they even explain that? Because that's something in reporting I've not really necessarily even seen, to be completely clear.
Yeah, they didn't provide the studies. And then actually afterward, Marty Makary's FDA, said, as of right now, there's no definitive link. They kind of had to walk it back. Hold on. I had the statement out right in front of me. And so it was funny how they kind of had to add all these caveats in, so, they couldn't definitively say, hey, acetaminophen is, definitively causes autism, so with the FDA, they put out a note saying, it's important to note that while an association between acetaminophen and neurological conditions has been described in many studies, a causal relationship has not been established, and there are contrary studies in the scientific nature. It is also noted that acetaminophen is the only over-the-counter drug approved for use to treat fevers during pregnancy, and high fevers in pregnant women can pose a risk to their children. Additionally, aspirin and ibuprofen have well-documented adverse effects on the fetus. So it's funny, they made this big announcement, and then the FDA, because they actually have researchers, they actually have doctors and career experts on this, had to say, pump the brakes. There's no definitive link,
But then the problem there is, who the fuck is reading the FDA press release
versus the president of the United States?
Yeah.
No, that's the important part, is that how many people, is that not a lot of people are going to read the actual statement from the FDA. Not a lot of people are going to read the statements from the NIH or HHS that have all of these caveats. They're just going to see what the president of the United States says. And this goes to a point that I really want to make, which is that it's weird for me as a journalist to say this. We should trust the government to put out good data and information around autism.
Yeah, we should be able to, but yeah.
It's weird for me to say this as a journalist because we're supposed to have healthy skepticism in our government. But this is why we spend so much money on the National Institutes of Health. This is why we spend so much money on the Department of HHS and the CDC. And the FDA. We should have confidence that our government is putting out accurate information and isn't peddling bad data and or bad information. And so the point that I make all the time is that Americans are busy people. And a lot of times, as you said, Nikki, they're going to just look, they're going to be, we think about this in journalism school. It's parents are listening to this while they're making dinner for their kids or they're picking them up for school. And so they're just gonna hear what the president says. And to be fair, like, you know, look, autism is a very big diagnosis because it fundamentally shapes like communication, social interaction, sensory processing. So when you hear the president of the United States say stuff like this, you should be able to take it to the bank. And, you know, like when you go on government websites, you should be able to look up information and see like what are the best services, what are the best supports, what's the most up-to-date information. So when the president says that, it kind of has this imprimatur of credibility.
I want to start from also the point that is kind of mentioned in the FDA announcement. It's also been mentioned to me by like every OBGYN I've spoken to, every researcher I've spoken to, every press release that's been put out by obstetrics and gynecology agencies, which is that like high fevers and sort of chronic pain during pregnancy in and of themselves are probably more harmful to a developing fetus than taking Tylenol. And for me, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Eric, is this obsession to assign a cause or in a way even to like assign blame on why a child was diagnosed with this when pregnant women are already being faced with so many decisions. Do you medicate in birth? Do you take this supplement? Do you do that? And now on top of it, it's like, oh, the president is saying if you take this medication, you will give your child autism. That to me opens up another can of worms in an already really ugly reproductive rights environment.
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar to the anti-vaccine debate, which is saying that like it is better for your child, it is better for a pregnant mom to get a fever and cause real fetal harm to their children than it is for their child to be autistic.
Yeah. No, and yesterday, a Fox host, it was Will Cain, was saying on TV that women who take Tylenol hate Trump more than they love their children.
Yeah, no, like it really is it's a hateful thing to say, and think about look, this is the thing about it. Pregnancy is one of the few things where you're allowed to be gossipy and judgmental in society across British, American, you know, Asian, Hispanic cultures.
Yeah.
The metaphor that I use is like, you know, if a bunch of moms are at a playground and then one of the moms says, "Oh, my child has autism," immediately they're going to say, "Oh, did you take Tylenol?" Like, and it brings me back to like the 1940s in the 1950s when we blamed autism on refrigerator mothers. Like, and you know, like Bruno Bettelheim compared moms of autistic children to Nazi prison guards. I mean, Bruno Bettelheim was a huckster.
Jesus, yeah.
You know, and the ultimate irony of it was that the anti-vaccine movement was really, you know, in a really weird, screwed up way, was parents pushing back on the idea that psychiatrists are saying of unloving mothers. It was saying, no, it wasn't our fault that our children became autistic. It was your fault that you were pumping up the kids with vaccines. So like it was them trying to absolve blame from themselves. But like again, we're now kind of going back to the really, really twisted days when we would blame unloving parents for this, you know?
You and I talked about this a little bit for an interview you did with me for Rolling Stone for a piece we just put out.
Yeah.
But how none of this actually helps autistic children, autistic people, their families. None of this is actually productive for making life and accessibility easier for people affected by autism spectrum disorders.
Yeah. Allison Singer at the Autism Science Foundation, who, you know, talks about profound autism and severe autism and all that stuff. Yeah. We don't agree on a lot of stuff, but she was horrified by it. And it's because she has a child with high support needs, which she would call profound autism, what I would just call high support needs, or, you know, some autism, or what some people would call level 3 autism. And she says this does nothing for her kid, you know? RFK Jr. says, like, we never saw, you know, full-blown autism in older people. She was like, my brother, it's like in his 60s. And the reason why RFK was because previously we used to diagnose them with intellectual disabilities, or we would send them away to institutions. Yeah. And the other thing is that your daddy was a big reason why we closed Willowbrook Like when his dad Senator Robert F. Kennedy Sr. went to Willowbrook and exposed the horrors of these institutionalized settings, that led to the closure of these things.
And also, Kennedy has an aunt who, from what we know, may have been autistic and was institutionalized and lobotomized.
Yes, well, at very minimum had intellectual disability.
Yeah.
And you're right, was lobotomized and was sent away for years to a home in Wisconsin. And it was, I believe it was Wisconsin, but I need to check on that.
I don't remember exactly what they said.
Ironically enough, and I've joked about this, that almost in a weird way, Rosemary's siblings' political careers was almost kind of penance for their dad lobotomizing Rosemary. Because if you think about it, John F. Kennedy prioritized deinstitutionalization in mental health and rehabilitation when he was president. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., of course, pushed for deinstitutionalization over at Willowbrook, called Willowbrook a snake pit. And then Eunice Kennedy Shriver, of course, founded the Special Olympics. And then Ted Kennedy wrote the Americans with Disabilities Act. So in a weird way, the Kennedy family was trying to repent for this horrible thing that Joe Kennedy did to their sister. And we're really kind of rolling back the clock on that.
With the rolling back the clock side of things, Eric, one thing I wanted to ask you about was how it seems like the Trump administration wants to malign as many people as it can, basically. Yes. It wants to sort of isolate groups and criticize groups. How concerning does it feel to you how this, to me, just seems like a further means to stigmatize a group, because they clearly are just using this as to not just say it's some sort of child welfare issue. It's more the sort of the way they're speaking about autistic people who exist now and are just people who want to get on with their lives,
Yeah. I mean, though, I do agree that they're trying to use it as a wedge issue. I think initially when RFK had that initial press conference in April where he said autism destroys families, like there was kind of this weird split where like a lot of parent advocates of like quote unquote profound autistic kids was like saying like, I don't like what he was saying about like mold or the environment, but like I like that he shed light on the challenges of the quote unquote profoundly autistic or the severely autistic. But what's funny, I think what this presser revealed was that he's not on their side, that RFK Jr. is not on their side, that Trump is not on their side, that even when he talks about like, the challenges of people with high support needs, that he's doing it in a way that blames the parents. And I think it really did reveal that, these people don't have their best interests in mind. And really they are, again, what they're doing. And this is a really important thing that I want to, Jack Pitney writes about in his book, The Politics of Autism. He's a professor at Claremont McKenna College and a former Republican, that in the past when the refrigerator mom thing was a thing, what it did was it took focusing on autism, saying like, this wasn't a public policy issue. It was an individual issue to be solved by like, you were an unloving mom. Like, so therefore there wasn't any public action. Now we're kind of doing the same thing where it's kind of siloing, where it's kind of like saying like there was an attempt to say that like, people like me are not as affected by it, but like, he was speaking really about the quote unquote profoundly autistic. What's funny is now, again, as I said, like a lot of people who don't like me and who disagree with everything I write about are saying like, yeah, RFK Jr. is actively hurting us.
Yeah. Just a final question, Eric, and this one I think we've touched on before, but I think it's important to talk about. If they actually wanted to help people with autism, what would they be doing? Because they're clearly what they're doing isn't. So what should they be doing?
Sure. So like one of the biggest things is we could look at is looking to treat, the fact that I think life expectancy is like something like 2.8 times worse for autistic people with intellectual disabilities. We could be looking into how to expand life expectancy for autistic people. One of the biggest killer for autistic people with intellectual disabilities, I believe, is epilepsy. So they have 2.8 times the mortality rate as non-autistic people, autistic people with intellectual disabilities. So like we could focus on things that reduce that mortality rate. We could focus on making sure that autistic people who don't speak get AAC communications devices and have it fully subsidized. Making sure that the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act has never been fully funded, which is supposed to be the thing that gives, that entitles people with disabilities the right to what's called a FAPE, a free appropriate public education. We could be researching into the fact that heart disease and suicide are the biggest killers of autistic people without intellectual disabilities. We could be focusing on we could fully fund the Medicaid home and community-based services system, because in the United States, I've heard stories about parents putting their kids on the wait list for Medicaid home services when they're 5 or 6 or 7, so that they could get on, so that the queue is cleared up and the wait list is cleared up when they're in their 20s.
Jesus.
Because if you get normal Medicaid, which is institutional care, that's an entitlement and there's no wait list for it. But if you want to get care in the home, that's not considered an entitlement, and so therefore they can have a wait list for it. Those are all things that could be done. Other things could be including ending sub-minimum wage labor for people with disabilities, because it is still legal in many states in the United States to pay people with disabilities below minimum wage. And in fact, I should add that Republican governors in Tennessee, South Carolina, and Georgia have ended sub-minimum wage labor.
Well, Eric, I think, there's clearly plenty more they should be doing.
I came in really hot, I know.
More conspiracy theories on Tylenol. So no, thank you so much, Eric. Eric, thanks for being on American Friction as always.
By the way, one of my friends said, and I'm going to start using it now, calling me an autistic person is now offensive. I now refer to myself as an acetaminophen. So,
well, Eric, you're my best acetaminophen. So thanks for being on American Friction. Right, let's round up some other stories. So, Nikki, you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but the shooting at the ICE facility, what do we know at the moment?
So from what we know, in the early hours of Wednesday morning, a gunman described by various law enforcement agencies as a sniper fired at an ICE facility in Dallas, Texas. It wasn't a detention center. It was like a short-term processing center at a field office, and ended up shooting 3 migrant detainees that were in the facility, killing at least 1. The gunman was identified yesterday afternoon as a 29-year-old man named Joshua Jan. It's, very early stages in the investigation. His motives are not entirely clear. There is a claim from the FBI that Jan had written, quote, anti-ICE on a bullet casing. But I think the thing that really bugs me is, again, like we said with Charlie Kirk, like we've said with pretty much every shooting we've covered on this podcast, political violence is not good. It's not productive. It does not produce the ends you want it to produce. I can't speak to the motives of the shooter yet because the investigation is barely 24 hours old. But the way Republicans are talking about this shooting, if you were just dropped in and listened to them for 30 minutes, I don't think you'd have any idea that the people that were killed in this attack were migrants.
Yeah.
And that's what's really been sitting with me for the past day or so, because the response initially, even before we knew who the shooter was or what had happened, the response from people like Christina and JD Vance was to preemptively label this as anti-law enforcement violence in a way that just happened to potentially be true. We still don't know, but the initial impulse was to be like, oh, this is anti-law enforcement violence. Before they had a shooter, before they knew what had happened, even as the Department of Homeland Security was confirming that the only people who had been shot were detainees and migrant detainees. And Republicans also came out very strongly demanding that Democrats tone down the rhetoric, that you can't be calling ICE authoritarians or Gestapo or secret police and that kind of thing. And I just all around, like, I struggle to take that seriously from the same people that are calling migrants animals,
Yeah.
universally labeling them terrorists and gang members and rapists and violent criminals who are, as the president said that last year, poisoning the blood of the country. We've seen violence directed at criminals. I do believe the manner in which this administration is conducting detentions and deportations is both physical, it's physical, psychological, and political violence against migrants and immigrants. So I just yesterday, I know we were talking in the chat and I kind of made a joke about how like my day had been ruined before 9 a.m., but it really does feel so bleak that this country is descending into this spiral where more and more often nihilistic people who are clearly, not in their right mind have the means and capability to conduct this kind of just egregious violence against innocents. And I don't know how to go, like, it just sometimes feels so overwhelming that I don't even know how to begin to process it. And, as a Mexican, it's layered for me. It's very layered.
So the outpouring of grief and the performative level of grief towards Charlie Kirk that we've witnessed from these people who clearly wanted to demonstrate that they had all this level of humanity and empathy for his family, and we saw just what a level of mourning unlike much I have seen. It looked like the only thing I can see comparable to it was like when the Queen died here in Britain. Like, that was the level of mourning they seemed to express towards Charlie Kirk. And as we've mentioned many times, what happened to Charlie Kirk shouldn't have happened. It was fucked up. It was wrong. And obviously his children, his wife don't deserve to have gone through that. But that they could spend the past couple of weeks performatively grieving publicly to such a level for him. And as you say, they can't even bring themselves to mention that they feel bad for these people having died.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just the level of dehumanization that they have gone through there, that it's like, okay, so just because they're not American citizens and they're people that you think should, it's just, you're not even acknowledging that they died. You're acknowledging that, oh, it's really fucked up that someone from ICE could have died. Well, they didn't, did they? That didn't happen. An ICE member didn't get shot. Real people did get shot. And you haven't for any moment said that you feel bad or sorry about that. And I just think that I thought a whole thing of America, that it's like, America, when you're within its borders, you are its responsibility. You are to be looked after. You would like to think that a country had existed upon at least some basis of that. And it's just, this is a complete erosion of the idea that you're going to be treated safely by America with any level of due process by them, and that they'll give a fuck at all.
Yeah. I think it's also important to point out here, and it gets really lost in the way this administration has been handling immigration policy. Immigration detention is supposed to be non-punitive. Like, you have not been, through the American judicial system, you have not been charged with a crime, sentenced, convicted, sentenced. So the standard of care and the standard of treatment is theoretically supposed to be high, but you hear the horror stories coming out of ICE detention centers. You hear about women losing their pregnancies, people dying because they can't get medical care, people dying and being injured in raids and arrests. You see these horrific videos of not just detainees, but people protesting these detentions being thrown to the ground and manhandled and beat by police officers who are masked and, refuse to show their identity. And it really does feel like, to this administration, those types of incidents, now the murder of 3 migrants who were in U.S. custody, is negligible in the face of the notion that people might be angry at the way the administration is treating these migrants. Not to say that that justified what this person did, but there's also dissonance for me in the notion that like we as a public are seeing the manner in which these migrants are being treated by this administration. And we're not allowed to criticize it, because that's the other impulse that has emerged from the right in response to this horrific shooting, is the same way you were not allowed to criticize Charlie Kirk after he was assassinated in a horrific assassination. Now you're not allowed to criticize ICE. You're not allowed to say that was what ICE is doing is authoritarian, reminiscent of Nazi Gestapo tactics, that they're acting as a secret police outside of the, existing bounds of government and established law. And that to me is it's scary. It's scary.
On this sort of political violence side of things, Chris, so attempted Trump assassin. So this was after the famous assassination attempt, the more famous assassination attempt. They have been sentenced, and that looks like it was a relatively dramatic day in court.
Yes, it was. So this is Ryan Ruth, who was the would-be assassin, who you might remember was caught at the edge of a golf course with a rifle pointed towards Donald Trump whilst he was golfing in Florida. He was charged with a number of things. He was charged with attempting to assassinate a major presidential candidate, possessing a firearm in furtherance of a crime of violence, assaulting a federal officer, possessing a firearm and ammunition as a convicted felon, and possessing a firearm with an obliterated serial number. So lots of charges. Interestingly, he pled not guilty and chose to defend himself, which, never goes very well, to be honest. But earlier this week, he was found guilty on all charges. And on the dramatic side of things, as the verdict was read out, it was reported that he then tried to stab himself in the neck with a pen unsuccessfully. He was prevented from doing so, and there was no damage reported to have been caused to him or anyone else. So he has now been charged and is going to be sentenced December 18th, and he faces life in prison.
Wow. Well, right. Let's end on some positive news, shall we? End on something slightly more, bit more levity. Jimmy Kimmel is back. Jimmy Kimmel is back. So,
Great.
Depressing that's the most good thing to talk about in America. Jimmy Kimmel, who shouldn't have ever gone, is now back, and Jimmy Kimmel.
I shouldn't have to think about Jimmy Kimmel this much. That's really it for me.
Exactly. I care that he was taken off, but I have never had to care this much about Jimmy Kimmel, nor should I be forced to. But Nikki, he's back. Does this feel like the end of the story? What I found is funny is how Republicans have tried to say Trump had nothing to do with Jimmy Kimmel going off, and then Trump himself has waded in, been like,
I had everything to do with it.
I totally got that guy taken off, and I will do it again.
Me.
Yeah, no, I don't think this is the end. I think you're still going to have disputes with local broadcasters. I think Trump, I don't think he's going to stop going after his critics. And I feel that Brendan Carr and the FCC do feel emboldened. Mm-hmm. I think it kind of opened up a strategy for them in the sense that the FCC and Trump now understand that these local broadcasters, which by and large they can manipulate via merger acquisitions, or in the case of Sinclair, where they're already a pretty conservative company, just by kind of courting their cooperation.
Yeah.
They can, even if it's incrementally, secure the outcomes they want, limit the scope and spread of these broadcasts, of these shows. And again, we've seen it since the administration came into power. The escalation is continuous. It doesn't stop. When you give them an inch, they take a mile. And even if they have to, retreat a couple 100 yards, they still manage to advance the cause.
Yeah. Well, it's going to keep going. But Chris, give me some ratings for old Jimmy.
Just before I do.
Worse ratings than the podcast.
Have you ever tried to actually find legit and accurate ratings for TV shows?
It's impossible.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
And everything is different.
Yeah.
So I had
Everything is bad.
Everything's bad.
The main thing we can say is that our ratings are better than Jimmy's, right?
That's right.
Sure. According to Jarvis Insights, which is legit.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah,
very legit.
So this monologue that that was posted to YouTube. It's got around 19 million views as we record. Probably will be more
Go on, Jimmy.
in the next few days. It really is an anomaly for his channel. He used to do loads, like lots of millions of views. But most recently, his stuff is kind of in the hundreds of thousands of views. So this really does stand out. But when it comes to viewership on the actual airwaves, it did over 6 million watches, which is a record for a regular show of his. His usual ratings are around 1.4 million an episode. So it's an increase of about 340%, which is a lot of percent,
That is
isn't
a
it,
whole
Jarv?
lot of percent, yeah.
Much
And
percent.
there are only 2 other episodes that have more views than that one, and one was almost 20 years ago, and the other one was in 2014.
Okay.
But yeah, good stuff for Kimmel, I guess.
Well done, Jimmy. Guys, let's make a pact, right?
Oh no.
Good stuff, Jimmy. We're pleased for Jimmy. He's a listener. So, Jimmy, well done. We're pleased. Let's never talk about Jimmy Kimmel again. Let's pinky promise on that one, Nikki. Come on. Chris?
I don't want to.
You want to talk about Jimmy more? Okay, well, Chrissy,
Yeah.
because you're going to get that, seeing as you like these sort of Jimmies. You'll know Chrissy.
Oh no.
Silly question time, my boy.
Well, I mean, Jarv, I'm not sure if you've heard.
My boy.
I'm not sure if you heard, but an adapted Harry Potter fanfic is the season's most anticipated novel.
Oh, is it?
It is.
I had no idea about that.
I know.
Who wrote that story?
It was someone called Nikki McCann Ramirez,
No way.
actually. Yeah.
I think you'll find it's Ramirez.
Sorry, yeah, Ramirez. I'm really bad at it as well, actually. But this is really anticipated Harry Potter fanfic.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not written by Nikki. Definitely
It's
not.
definitely not written by me because I interviewed the author.
Well, yeah, that's what. Yeah, and who else was there to see it? We weren't.
Yeah, exactly, man.
How did you interview this author? The author.
Via Zoom.
Zoom. Yeah, was it?
That's magic, just like Harry Potter.
Portal,
to them.
actually.
Portal.
Yeah, interviewed via Portal.
Oh, is that something from Harry Potter?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Diagon Alley.
Yeah, Hagrid. Silly question then.
So the question that I wrote down actually was, if you could write fan fiction about anything, what would it be, and what would it be about?
Oh, well, vampires. Blade or some shit.
What's the Blade's the inspiration.
Jarv
Yeah,
is writing
or like-
Twilight fan fiction.
I'd like to write a really good sequel to 30 Days a Night. Because 30 Days a Night rips. Like, low-key underrated
What's that?
vampire film. Oh, they're like in Alaska and shit. And then the
Vampires in Alaska?
Yeah, so they get
That's a good
get
title.
trapped in town, and then
What
the
do they
vampires
do?
come in. They like go
But
into
what do they
a-
do when the sun's out for like 24 hours a day?
Well, they're in the counter time. They're in like the old
Oh, of
dark
course,
period
yeah.
sort of thing.
Okay.
That's why they've gone there. The vampires know their shit. They like they
Vampires in Alaska.
They know their
pretty sick.
poles. So yeah, I guess I would. Because the second 30 Days, there is a sequel, and it is bad. Let me tell you. So that would be quite cool. So yeah, probably that would be good. Yeah, that's what I'm going for. Maybe a Star Wars thing, but there's too much Star Wars, and it always sucks these days.
Well, some of it's alright.
Oh come on, the new
Actually-
Grogu thing looks terrible.
I've not seen anything
There's
about
like
this.
a Mandalorian Grogu.
Oh,
spin-off.
yeah. That sounds sick.
It does.
I'm gonna watch that.
Sick.
Well, of course we'll watch it, like because it's just
Yeah.
Star Wars just have an unlimited license to rob me of money. It's like every
Yeah.
few months they go.
Well,
there's a Star Wars film at the cinema. Yep, I guess that's me
I'm
going.
still not over Aculite, and anyone who disagrees with me, you're
Yeah,
dead to
yeah,
me.
fair.
Nikki, what's the latest fanfic you've written?
I've never written fan fiction.
But if you had to,
I would never. I can't write, actually. I'm illiterate.
Oh, right.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know how I got this job.
Well, you got this job because we're talking right now, Nikki.
No, exactly.
Exactly.
So
No, right.
none of my articles are actually written by me. I dictate into the computer.
Oh,
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah. And the
Excellent.
computer writes them for me.
So you're not even going to answer.
yeah.
You're not going to answer
She
at
Nikki actually
I-
sent me a voice note by accident the other day, and it was like, and then Hermione and Ron kiss. And that was like,
But the name just like
I
changed.
would rather die. Let me be clear about this. I would rather jump off the London Bridge than tell you all what content I am consuming.
God's sake.
Well, we know it's Harry Potter fan fiction now. Anyway, our resident Hermione.
You don't, and it's not.
It's actually Hermoso and Don.
Yeah. What's that?
Changed the names slightly because
right.
you can't have the exact same names, can you?
Oh, right.
Because it's like theft of concept or something.
I mean, if you publish it, yeah, that's in the article.
She
Nikki would
knows
be
so much about it.
Ravenclaw all over, wouldn't she?
Ravenclaw.
Yeah, Ravenclaw.
Ravenclaw.
But she's got that all over. Me and you, I've come to terms with being Hufflepuff.
I'm Gryffindor
I'm
through
kind
and
of
through,
cool.
mate.
You're fucking Hufflepuff with me. I'm Hufflepuff or I'm
'cause
Slytherin, and there's no in between.
no,
and
you're
everyone's
a
kind of
Hufflepuff.
shitting it up. And so I think
No
I'm
one's
If
a
anyone
Hufflepuff.
on this podcast is a Slytherin, it's me. And it's disgusting that we're talking about this, and we should be ashamed of ourselves.
Yeah.
Very good.
Well, what's your fan fiction? Lord of the Rings?
Probably Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
That exists.
There's so many characters you could write
There
spin-offs
are,
about.
yeah.
It'd be sick. My other one was, and this is actually coming out, so it's not going to be fanfic. There's going to be a Darth Maul series, animated,
cool.
coming out. Well,
And he was in
excited for
Clone
that.
Wars and shit, though, right? Wasn't he already?
No, what do you mean?
Legless Darth Maul was in like he was in the
Oh yeah,
Clone
the
Wars
animated.
cartoon.
Yeah, he was. But there's going to be like a dedicated spin-off to Darth Maul,
Okay.
which is going to be so good.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
you
Well,
like the way I
guys,
said
if
that?
you want to fund any of those, back us on Patreon. So patreon.com/American Friction. If we get a bajillion subscribers, then
that's a lot.
It is a lot, but
Yeah.
we're close. We're really close because we've got that Jimmy Kimmel ratings shit going on right now. I'll do some vampire shit. Nikki will do more Harry Potter stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
And
I
Chris
will not be doing that.
and
I will
Chris
simply not be doing
is going
that.
to do his Lord of the Rings / Leicester City fan
Oh, yeah.
fiction.
Oh,
I'm guessing
can you
it's gonna be
imagine?
N up top.
Yeah.
That'd be quite good. Right. Well, that brings us to the end of the show. So, Nikki, aka Hermione, thank you for the podcast.
I'm never speaking to you again.
Oh, dear.
Chris, Ron, thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome,
Are
Hagrid.
you? No.
Gonna be Hagrid? I'm gonna be Severus.
No. You're definitely Professor Lupin, 100%.
I don't know who that is.
He's the one who transforms into a dog, and he's friends with Black. What's his name?
Sirius Black.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. He sounds quite cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
It is pretty
Anyway,
cool.
right,
I
and
need this to
Simon.
end. This is actually killing me.
Simon, what's your fan fiction?
Oh yeah, I feel like all fan fiction has been written that you would want to be written. Do you know what I mean? Like there's so much of it out there now. Like
Yeah.
like the things that I was really into as a kid, like Star Wars or Spider-Man, or that sort of thing. It's like there's just a million versions of them already.
Yeah.
So I'm good. I'm going to
Literally.
leave. Yeah, exactly. There's a multiverse of this stuff.
Yeah.
And
So I'll leave fan fiction to
To the professionals like Nikki.
professionals.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
and I think you'd be in Ravenclaw, I'm going to say, Simon, actually.
Sure. I've
Yeah.
never read Harry Potter, so I don't know how to take that.
Right, listeners, thank you so much. Write in, let us know about fan fiction, etc. And if you want to back the podcast to keep it going, search American Friction Podcast Patreon or go to patreon.com/American Friction. Doing this very quickly, patreon.com/American Friction. There's a link in the show notes. We want to keep going. We're going to keep going, but money would be nice. And a quick reminder, if you can't back us financially, we totally get that, but please do go rate, review, subscribe, wherever
5 stars.
you're listening to the podcast. Yeah, 5
5
stars
of them.
only. Bad reviews, get out of here. You just got
Get
a
out of town.
podcast. We put a lot of work into this, so 5-star review.
Please.
Rate,
Be nice.
subscribe. Anyway, you've been listening to American Friction. It's your boy, Jacob Jarvis. It's your boy, Chris Jones. And it's your girl, Nikki McCann Ramirez. Simon's on the edit. Rooka Rewind. See you later. American Friction. Peace out.
That was awful.